Welcome to this Our Finger Lakes History program. I am Seneca County historian Walter Gable. Today's program is the third in an occasional series dealing with historic places in the Finger Lakes. In this occasional series, you will learn some detailed information about these historic places, which are well worth your time visiting. This third historic place I want to talk about is the William H. Seward House, located at 33 South Street in Auburn, New York. It is clearly one of my personal most favorite historic places to visit here in the Finger Lakes. Visiting this place gives us a great understanding of the life and work of William Henry Seward, as well as insight into what a home of a wealthy family during the mid-1800s was like. William Henry Seward was New York State Governor, United States Senator from New York, and then Secretary of State under both President Abraham Lincoln and President Andrew Johnson. Touring this mansion, one can see the house basically as it looked in William Henry Seward's later years. The Mansion Museum is filled with an unmatched collection of political and travel souvenirs, decorative arts, and photographs that span William Seward's nearly 40 years of political service. The house was declared a National Historic Landmark in 1964 and was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1966. The house was originally built in 1816 by Judge Elijah Miller, William Seward's father-in-law. At that time, the house was built on 4 acres on the outskirts of Auburn. It was a 10-room townhouse for a wealthy Cayuga County judge. Judge Elijah Miller moved into the house in December 1817, along with his 2 young daughters, Cornelia and Frances, and his mother and sister. Elijah Miller was a lawyer and county judge in Auburn. William Henry Seward became a junior partner in Judge Miller's law firm. So he would have become well acquainted with Miller's family, including younger daughter Frances. Seward asked Judge Miller for permission to marry Miller's younger daughter Frances. Shown here are paintings of William Seward and his wife Frances. William was a lawyer practicing in Auburn at the time of their marriage in 1824. In 1830, William began a lengthy public office career when he was elected to the New York State Senate. William Seward married Frances. They moved into the house in October 1824, something that Judge Miller required when William had asked the judge for Frances's hand in marriage. Judge Miller remained in the home until his death in 1851, but it was William and Frances that oversaw an extensive addition to the house from 1846 to 1848. This addition included a new dining room and a new kitchen on the main floor, as well as servants' quarters. As I've said, William Seward had almost 40 years of public service both in Albany, New York, and Washington, D.C. It is important, however, to point out that the entire time that William held the various elected and appointed offices in New York State and United States government, which many spent much time in Albany and Washington, his wife chose to continue to live at their home in Auburn, New York. Perhaps the most famous action taken by Secretary of State William Seward was his leadership in the United States' purchase of the Alaska Territory from Russia in 1867. For a total purchase price of $7.2 million, or 12 cents an acre, the United States acquired the entire Alaska Territory. At the time of the purchase, the plan was derisively labeled by Seward's opponents as Seward's Icebox or Seward's Folly. One thing that prompted the purchase of this territory was the desire of the United States government to end any Russian presence in the Americas. Of course, much later we found that the Alaska Territory had mineral wealth that made the actual purchase price a real financial bargain. Shown here are 3 different views of the formal parlor, the largest room in the mansion. Virtually all of the furnishings are original to the family and mansion, so we get a really good idea of what it looked like while William Seward was living there in the later years of his life. In the upper left picture, you see the famous Steinway piano. I personally had the joy of playing that piano during the 1867 centennial of the purchase of the Alaska Territory. This is a view of the dining room, with lots of White House china included. What happened in the later years to this mansion? From 1872 to 1920, William Seward's youngest son, named William Henry Seward II, lived in the mansion with his family that are shown here. They made few changes to the mansion. Then from 1920 to 1951, William Henry Seward III lived in the mansion with his wife and son. They also made few changes to the mansion and its furnishings. Upon the death of William Henry Seward III, the house and the family's possessions were bequeathed to the Fred L. Emerson Foundation. The intent was for the house to be open as a public museum, honoring his father and grandfather. It has become a major tourist attraction for good reason. A visit to this mansion gives you a very good idea of the lifestyle of a wealthy Finger Lakes family in the mid-1800s. Such a visit also enables you to get a good feeling of the long political career of a famous American who almost became president in 1861. I hope that you have enjoyed learning about this historic place in the Finger Lakes, helping us to appreciate even more our Finger Lakes history.